Is it an addiction?
Is it an addiction? No, I don't think it's an addiction. I think it does put me, like, it makes me happy. But no, it's not an addiction.
So, for once in my life, let me get what I want. Lord knows.
You're gonna live with me now. Huh? Yeah, I'm gonna take care of you. Because I love you.
Welcome to the fucking show.
Welcome back to Fantasy Football by Committee, powered by Flurry Sports. It can be tough to win a fantasy league on your own, but at FFBC, we will work together to bring home the hardware. Hosted by Zach Bruner and the rest of the Flurry Sports crew, we will give top-level analysis, answer your questions, and, well, go off on other tangents.
That was after I tried to get ChatGPT to admit that 9/11 was an inside job, but it stood firm. It gave quite a few solid points that it was true.
Welcome to Fantasy Football by Committee. The show starts in 3, 2, 1.
How's it going, everybody? Happy week 15, almost. Obviously, we got Monday Night Football tonight for those who are watching this after the fact, recording this Monday morning. Didn't do last week. This week is going to be a little different than the normal Monday morning shows. Usually we just go over the top trending fantasy players. We go over the top waiver wire ads, and we answer a bunch of questions from you. If y'all have questions, definitely ask those questions. That's going to be the biggest part of this show. I want to give you guys what you want, but obviously week 15 for the majority of fantasy leagues out there, that means this is the first week of the fantasy playoffs, and the waiver wire doesn't fully get thrown out the window, but you're certainly adding players with a different mindset. I talked about this mindset a couple of weeks ago. This is something you probably should have transitioned to a couple of weeks ago, but you're looking for players who you can play right now, or you're looking players who will elevate to that starting level value if there's an injury. And a lot of times you're wanting the handcuff to the players in your starting lineup, right? Your team was good enough to make the fantasy playoffs, so let's ensure the players that you have there. For example, if you have a Travis Etienne, he's been getting banged up a little bit. Maybe you add the Dearness Johnson over insert blank running back who's been okay, who could be started in a flex, possibly. You know what I mean? That's the mindset we're looking for. But we'll go over the top trending players on Sleeper. I actually haven't even looked at it yet, but we'll talk through those. We will talk through some of the big injuries, sounding like some players, key fantasy players are certainly going to be out for the fantasy playoffs, possibly rest of season for just NFL in general. Not a great thing to see. A couple big injuries for the Thursday night football game. We got Chargers versus Raiders on Thursday. Don't know who wants to watch that. Don't know who will watch a full 4 quarters other than maybe diehards like myself. But it is what it is. This NFL season's been weird. But until you guys got some questions, I will start by going over the top trending players on Sleeper like we usually do. We'll probably cruise through these a little bit quicker because there's less relevance, I would say. And I am going to be pitching, or not pitching rather, to pick these guys up, less than normal. Like you don't need to pick these guys up. But the number one most trending player on Sleeper Fantasy, that means the most picked up player over the past 24 hours, is Clyde Edwards-Helaire. With Isaiah Pacheco out, he served as the team's lead running back. Jerick McKinnon mixed in as well. McKinnon got that touchdown. I'm not sure if he scored it when Clyde was out with ripped pants. I don't think so, though. But regardless, he's been picked up over 160,000 times over the past 24 hours. Pacheco could be back next week. If he's not, then you got Clyde Edwards-Helaire against the Patriots. Certainly don't like the matchup there whatsoever. So, does he need to be the number one pickup this week? Absolutely not. I don't foresee a situation where you are in the fantasy playoffs and you're picking him up to start him. I just don't see it. I don't love it. So even though he is the number one most picked up player in fantasy football over the past day, I think we can ignore it. I don't really care. Number 2 is Brevin Jordan, tight end for the Texans. He's starting to break out a little bit, but that's because Dalton Schultz has been out. Dalton Schultz, it seemed like he was closer to playing this week, and I foresee him playing next week. With that in mind, if Schultz comes back, don't care about Brevin Jordan. And then now there's an added layer of CJ Stroud. We'll talk about him in a little bit, but he left the game concussed. There's a chance he doesn't come back for next week. So do we really like any of the pass catchers there in Houston against the Titans without CJ Stroud? Not really. And then the week after that, they play the Browns, which I hate. So I don't really want to be picking up a Texan right now. Doesn't really make sense to me. Number 3, this one I think is worth talking about. This may be the number one pickup. Jake Browning in Cincinnati picked up 123,000 times over the past day. He's looked good. I mean, Luke and I talked about it on one of the fantasy shows after his first, not start, but when he first came in, I think. And we both said we liked him. Like he looked pretty good. It looked like he could play the part. And since then, he's basically gotten better and better. He uses his legs a little bit, which is nice, but he is certainly throwing the ball around, playing very well. And you like the matchups ahead. He's got the Vikings this week. Like him, there's obviously some quarterback injuries we'll talk about in a little bit. Jake Browning, I think, is more than serviceable to pick up for this week against the Vikings. Week after that, he plays at Pittsburgh. He's already seen Pittsburgh once, which is nice. And he didn't play bad. I mean, 19 of 26, 227 and a touchdown. Not a great fantasy day, but he certainly didn't play terrible. And having the repeated reps now, like this is a team he's gotten to study twice, that's good for him. On the flip side, Steelers have gotten to study him twice. That's good for them as well. But I think you can certainly do worse than a matchup against Pittsburgh in Week 16 if you have to play Jake Browning, obviously. But regardless, Week 15, Vikings, love it. Number 4 is Drew Lock. I mean, Gino's going to play next week, I'm pretty sure. I thought Drew Lock looked pretty good. Like, if you're in Dynasty, I don't mind picking him up. But no reason to pick him up for season long, I don't think. I would put him behind number 5, and that's Joe Flacco, over 104,000 pickups. Joe Flacco looks great. Not great. He looks good, though. He looks like the best Browns quarterback we've seen this season, and that's not embellishing or exaggerating whatsoever. And this is a big reason why you need to join the Fantasy Football by Committee Facebook group. If you're watching on YouTube, link below. Someone asked me, you go there, you can ask questions to myself, the rest of the hosts, the rest of the fantasy community. But someone yesterday specifically asked me, do I start Joe Flacco or Tommy DeVito? And not only did I say Joe Flacco, I said Flacco's going to pass for over 300 yards because the Jags just sit back and don't even try. They just play zone. Flacco, I mean, he got over 200 yards in the first half. He had a damn good game. And that's the kind of analysis and help you can get at Fantasy Football by Committee over on Facebook. So please go join over there. I and the rest of us will help you win your league. We're all just trying to win together. One of the best up-and-coming fantasy communities on the internet, in my opinion. So definitely go do that. And I guess I should say number 5 then, Joe Flacco. I think he's worth a pickup. Again, if you have Justin Herbert, CJ Stroud, if you're riding with Josh Dobbs, et cetera, I think Joe Flacco's a decent pickup. He's got a good team around him. He plays Chicago this week. I'm not overly afraid of that. And then he goes to Houston. I like that. And then week 17, which is probably your championship week, he gets a little revenge game home against the Jets. I don't really want to start him against the Jets. I love Joe Flacco, but I really love that Jets defense. So have a backup plan for your league championship. But I think Flacco does have the opportunity to get you there. Number 6 is Jerick McKinnon. Talked about him a little bit already. Obviously, Isaiah Pacheco out. McKinnon's uptick in snaps rose. Scored a touchdown. Looked pretty good. This is the Jerick McKinnon time of year. Obviously, Chiefs pass catchers, they definitely look better, I thought, this week. They're, the offense is starting to gel a little bit. But this is the Jerick McKinnon time of year. If you need a rhythm player, if you need somebody to pick up the third down, you need something like that, I can see Jerick McKinnon starting to get a little bit more involved. He is one of the only guys I would pick up for my bench as like a speculative ad. He's been out, he's been hurt, hasn't really gotten many snaps this year. This is the time of year where he could peak. So he's a speculative ad that I could be convinced of. Luke, what's up? Luke needs 22 points from Derrick Henry, or need Derrick Henry to get 7 more points than Tyreek Hill to stay alive. I think the first is more likely. The 22. Miami's run defense isn't that great, so I think numbers may contradict that a little bit, but they're really not. So, there's a possibility where Derrick Henry in a spotlight game falls in the end zone for 2 touchdowns. Like, that's very, very likely. So, not very, very likely. Very, very possible. So, I think you're still alive. I'm rooting for it. I still have my I have the Derrick Henry touchdown bet as well, which will hit. But I have the Derrick Henry at any game this year runs for over 200 yards, and then I get paid. I still have that going, so I would love for that to hit tonight, and that certainly would mean you win. Ralph's team is in shambles. That sucks, man. Jefferson and Jacobs hurt before the first round of the playoffs. I only got Chuba, Thielen, JSN, and Gabe Davis, who gave me a donut yesterday. Gave me one as well. That sucks. And the Justin Jefferson owners, man, you were so patient. So patient. There's teams who went out and traded for him. I pitched for that. Like, obviously don't expect him to, we'll talk about his injury in a little bit. Looked like ribs to me. They've been weirdly vague about what's going on, but I have people over there, so trust me, I've been texting. I will get information before other people. I promise you that, and I will let you guys know Wednesday. They sound optimistic though, but optimistic doesn't mean he's going to play this week. I believe week 16 is the Packers matchup. I think possible he returns for that. Obviously, that game could very well decide that final wild card spot in the NFC. So, Jefferson, I wouldn't rule him out for that, but him and Jacobs, I think I'm ruling them out for this week, which sucks. Luckily, Chuba's playing a little bit better. Thielen, I do not like whatsoever. Since Reich left, they are not calling the plays for him, and they are certainly looking towards the younger guys. JSN, who the Seahawks play? I know their matchups are tough, but Philadelphia, hey, I like that matchup for you, actually. And then Tennessee Steelers. So what we're looking for with JSN, we're looking for the Seahawks to get down and go 3 wide. That's when JSN does his best work. That's why we've seen him start getting rolling a little bit lately. Seahawks dropping games against Philadelphia this week. Obviously, Philadelphia back-to-back losses, need a statement game. I expect their offense to come out rolling. So I could see the Seahawks chasing points in this one. Seahawks secondary isn't that, or Philly's secondary isn't that great either. I think JSN could actually turn in a decent performance for you this week. I like that, actually. I would start him over Thielen, I think. And then Gabe Davis, I'm zero analysis. I don't know. He is a team captain. The team loves him. I think he's talented. I don't think he's great. I don't think he is a wide receiver 2 on maybe even half the other teams in the league. I don't think he's that great, but his team loves him, and they still sort of refuse to get the ball to him. Now, we are having a completely different conversation if Josh Allen just looks towards the middle of the field. He's, Gabe Davis was wide open doing jumping jacks, would have scored a touchdown. But even still, no catches other than that. If he had one catch for 45 yards and a touchdown, I guess we're still going, at least he made the big play Gabe, or big game Gabe, whatever. But, yeah, there's no week ever that you're feeling good about starting Gabe Davis. Not one. There's not one matchup. If Stephon Diggs goes down, you don't feel good about starting Gabe Davis. But he's going to turn in a performance that could win it for you. So, you may be forced to start him. I almost may start him over Adam Thielen, depending on what you need. If you need a big performance or if you need 5-6 points. Obviously, if you only need a few points, you're going with Thielen. But, yeah, trust me, I have Gabe Davis as well in a couple of leagues. One of them is a dynasty league. I'm sort of just praying he gets traded or something. Maybe he leaves in free agency. I don't know. But that team loves him so much, so it seems like he's stuck in purgatory forever, which is not fun. Numbers updated a little bit here. So Flacco up to 4. Drew Lock is 3. 5 is Brevin Jordan. Number 6 now is Chase Brown. Picked up 73 times over the past 24 hours. He's the backup, obviously, in Cincinnati. He had a big touchdown catch, or did it go for a touchdown? He had a big catch. Yeah. Cincinnati wants to get him more involved. He played nearly a third of the snaps this week. And I think he's a really good player, good rookie, and definitely want to take some of that workload away from Joe Mixon, because I think we all assume the Cincinnati Bengals are not making the playoffs. So with that in mind, don't want to kill Joe Mixon. You want him around next year. Let's get the rookie involved, see what he can do, see if they can rely on him as a backup going forward, or if they need somebody else. And I think Chase Brown's good enough where you can rely on him. Obviously an older rookie, 23 years old, played well in Illinois, and can't expect a big touchdown catch every single week. But I think you can expect around 10 touches from Chase Brown going forward. I don't think there's really a situation where they shut down Joe Mixon, unfortunately. So I don't know if you're starting Chase Brown, but if you're in a deep league, I suppose you can do worse than Chase Brown as a flex. That's about it, though. Number 7, Davis Allen, tight end for the Rams. Who the fuck cares? Number 8, Isaiah Likely. He obviously had a nice game. Back-to-back games of decent target share. 6 targets, then 7 targets this past week. 5 catches, 83 and a touchdown. Up until the past couple of games, Isaiah Likely really hasn't done much with Lamar Jackson, so it's nice to see the Ravens call plays for him. And I think the performance he turned in suggests that they may not go aggressive for Zach Ertz. Obviously, if Zach Ertz comes in, he's the tight end 1. Isaiah Likely is irrelevant. But, they're in it for the long haul. I think the Ravens are Super Bowl contenders. I think they used the bye week to draw up play specifically for Isaiah Likely, which hadn't happened in the past. So I think you can trust him going forward. As far as tight ends go, I don't think he's going to be a high touchdown producer by any means. I think more likely than not, he's not going to score. No pun intended. But yeah, I think he's a low-end tight end 1 rest of the year, probably. Number 9 now is Jerick McKinnon. And then number 10's Matthew Stafford. That's interesting. And it's just because of the quarterback injuries we referenced. We'll talk about in more detail in a second. And Matthew Stafford just hadn't been owned. So now let's look to the vet, who is obviously still one of the best passers in the NFL. I don't think anyone can really argue that. He almost tossed an interception at the end of the game. This past week they lost regardless, but I'm not sure what he was doing there. But he's great. I think he's looking good. Cooper Kupp's getting better. He certainly looked healthier this past week than he had in a while, which is great news. And even better news is the fact that he plays Washington this week. So if you had a quarterback injury, if you're hurting there, you got Washington from Stafford, and then he plays New Orleans, which I'm not that afraid of. It's not a great matchup, but I'm not afraid. And then he goes to the Giants. The Rams need to win. I think they do steal a wild card spot, even though the betting odds favored them not to, at least this past week. I think they do. And yeah, I think you can trust Stafford the rest of the way, especially with those pass catchers right now. But yeah, that is the top 10. Nothing super shocking. I don't think there's any must pick up player. There's no must add. Weird week for fantasy. And again, we'll talk about it again more, but adjust your mind, adjust your strategies in terms of waiver wire pickups. You're not picking up a depth guy. You're picking up players who could vault to starting level if there's an injury. You're picking up the insurance, the handcuffs for your players, and then maybe you're picking up a player just so your opponent or another league mate can't pick them up. You can pick up somebody to block somebody. That's fine. I like that strategy, but you're not picking up. I mean, who was one of the players I said? You're not picking up Brevin Jordan. You're not picking up Clyde Edwards-Helaire, really. Like, I just don't really see the reason to do so. Certainly not picking up Davis Allen. I will forget his name by the time I'm done reading this question. Browner up by 2. I got Waddle and my opponent has Saquon. What are my chances? I mean, I think it's truly 50-50. It just sort of depends how these games go. I think Waddle could have a pretty nice game, though. Full attention on Tyreek, obviously. But I think Waddle could perform in this primetime slot. So I like that for you. This Giants game could go either way. I think no one's giving the Giants a chance to win this game. Obviously, if you listen to Lombardi Sweep, I picked them to win this game. I think it is a true coin flip, though. And for the Giants to win, Saquon needs to pop off. I think Saquon could push for 25 touches tonight. And if that's the case, I mean, you're just hoping he doesn't score a touchdown. Because I think he could rack up 5-6 catches. I think he could run for over 100 yards. I think he could fall in the end zone a couple times. So it's full game flow specific. We shall see. But truly, I think 50-50. I wish for your sake, and I think for all football fans' sake, I wish that these games were staggered and not played at the exact same time. Because it would be great to see Jalen Waddle, pop off, right? Go for 2 touchdowns. And then all of a sudden you see Saquon go off as well, and you're just rooting against him. That'd be great television. That'd be great for ratings. That'd be great for everything. I don't understand the reason of scheduling 2 Monday Night Football games, playing them at the same fucking time. It's so dumb. It's so stupid. Like, okay, pick a game. Pick which one you want to watch. It's so stupid. I don't understand the strategy. Other than you're thinking one of these games is going to be an absolute dud. And that's fine. Unfortunately, it looks like both of them could be duds. Okay. Let's talk about some of these injuries. If you have more questions on injuries, more start-sit questions, more anything fantasy-related questions, definitely drop them in the chat. If you're watching this after the fact, you can drop them in the comments. You could also go to Fantasy Football by Committee on Facebook. If you're watching on YouTube, link is in the description. Awesome Facebook group. You can ask questions to myself, the other hosts you see on this channel, and a bunch of other people in the community. It is a great place to ask and answer questions. You can ask anonymously if you are afraid one of your Facebook friends are going to find you getting fantasy advice or something. So definitely go over there and join, and we are going to be winning championships together. You can bet on that. Let's talk about Justin Jefferson. Obviously, a lot of people have been very, very patient with Justin Jefferson. in his return, held him out. He was out for like 5 weeks because of the bye week as well, something like that, maybe more. And then he comes back and he hurts himself immediately. Big hit. They've been weirdly vague about this. When I first saw it, it looked pretty clear to me that it was probably a ribs injury. He got hit kind of in the back on the side. It looked like he could have cracked or broke a rib. Left. I assume they did x-rays in the locker room, and then he was actually, he actually went to the hospital, was discharged today, I believe, or maybe last night, but they're calling it an internal chest injury. I don't think that rules out ribs, but that's weird. I don't know why they would be super vague about it if it's just ribs, but they're calling it an internal chest injury. They have been optimistic, I know that, but could it be something soft tissue on the inside? Very possible. Could just be a bruise to one of those organs, which isn't great. It's more of a pain thing. But it also could be, broken rib, and then they are admitted to the hospital to see if there is anything wrong with his lung or something. That's certainly possible as well. They have been optimistic. Like I said earlier, I think there's no chance he plays in week 15. The fact that they're optimistic suggests, I think, a return. I think he could come back for week 16. I should check one more time. I think that is the game they play the Packers, which would be for that last wild card spot, possibly. Week 17, they play the Packers. Okay, so that changes things. Week 16, they play the Lions. That's still a big game. But week 17, they play the Packers. That's certainly more important. They have to win this week, though. They got to beat the Bengals. Let's assume they beat the Bengals. Got the Lions. I think you could still drop that. But then week 17, that game against the Packers, that matchup with the Packers could be for that last wild card spot. So maybe that's more of a target date for Justin Jefferson's return. That would be the Fantasy Football Championship. That's not great. You'd have to have balls of steel to drop him without more concrete news. But he is certainly on that possibly droppable list. Don't do it yet. Don't do it immediately. But I think Justin Jefferson, there's a chance he misses the rest of the fantasy season, or he would only come back for the fantasy championship. And you got to get there first, right? So that's the thing with Justin Jefferson. Not great news for this week, but they say optimistic, so we shall see. Browner, how do I feel about Love? He's my backup and Herbert's hurt. I mean, the thing with Jordan Love right now is the Packers can't run the football to save their fucking life, especially in the red zone. So for the Packers to score, it pretty much needs to be Jordan Love throwing the ball, which is good. I think he's gotten bailed out by the defenses a lot lately and by a lot of luck. But, I mean, in terms of a fantasy football change right now, without Herbert, and we'll talk about him in a sec, he's next on the list. I think you can certainly do worse than Love. I think he's fine. I think he's probably an upper. I mean, he's probably around that quarterback 12 to 14 range, maybe rest of the year. I think he's right around there. And the matchups for Jordan Love are great. So, play the Bucs this week, right? If he plays the Bucs, they can't stop anybody throwing the ball. Yeah. In Lambeau, Tampa comes up, may have some snow, could be a little cold. Yeah, I think Jordan Love's actually a decent play this week and possibly going forward. We'll talk about some of his weapons in a second as well. But yeah, separating fantasy from reality, I think Jordan Love's a decent option the rest of the way. Let's talk about your injured quarterback. Let's talk about Justin Herbert. MRI on his finger scheduled today on his right hand, so throwing hand, not great. And I think there's a pretty decent chance Justin Herbert misses the rest of the fantasy year, which basically means missing the rest of the NFL season. So if you had Justin Herbert on your fantasy team and you probably drafted him pretty high, he's been your lock and load quarterback one the entire way, you got to come up with a backup plan now. Easton Stick came in. I'm not putting a bunch of confidence in him. So unfortunately, I think Justin Herbert is going to be out for you for the fantasy playoffs. That sucks. Hopefully you're like Browner and you have a backup quarterback who can be serviceable for you, keep your team afloat. I have more confidence in Justin Jefferson coming back and being fantasy relevant than Justin Herbert, unfortunately. Another quarterback, CJ Stroud, gets concussed, leaves the game. We've seen some players come back now out of concussion protocol a little bit quicker than earlier in the year. I am unsure. If we want to play conspiracy theory, there's been so many injuries, so many star players off the field. Let's help them out in this concussion protocol a little bit. Let's get them back on the field. I don't know if that's real or not. Certainly is pointing that direction, and it wouldn't be surprising whatsoever. But regardless, CJ Stroud concussed. I think there's a pretty solid chance he misses this week, but I don't think it's a multi-week thing. But adjust accordingly. Again, you're going to need another quarterback then. Talk about Justin Herbert, talk about CJ Stroud. Josh Dobbs got benched. Obviously, other injuries lately as well. You may look for a Jake Browner. You may need to go to a Joe Flacco, something like that. Matthew Stafford, he was trending. If he's out there, definitely go pick up Matthew Stafford. It sucks. It sucks. It's been such a shitty year for quarterback, and KJ here lost Herbert as well. Has Kyler Murray. Should I play Kyler this week versus San Fran or pivot to Joe Flacco or Gardner Minshew? Let me look at their schedules really quick. Minshew plays the Steelers and Flacco plays the Bears. I'm probably going Flacco. I think the Browns could have a little bit of trouble running the ball against Chicago. Chicago's really locked down their run defense a little bit better lately. So I feel okay playing Joe Flacco at home against the Bears. I think that's okay. Not the highest over under, but I think that's what I'm doing. Let me look really quick on Kyler Murray's stats against the Niners over the years, just to see if he does have a thing. There's a chance maybe he gives them issues. I don't foresee that being true. But, I mean, shit, he hasn't played the Niners since 2021. That's insane. Didn't play the first game this year, didn't play them last year, didn't play game 2 of the 2021 season. So October 2021 was the last time he played the Niners. Very different team then. He completed over 70% of his passes, but 239 and a touchdown, 1 yard rushing. Not great. 2 fumbles. Year before that, I mean, regardless, he hasn't done that well against the Niners. He ran for quite a bit of yards the year before that, but I'm not going Kyler Murray this week. I don't think. He hasn't been super great either. So it's not like you're playing a hot or, sitting a hot player against a good defense. He just hasn't been that great. So, yeah, I'm probably going Flacco. What a time to be alive, eh? Didn't think you'd be starting Joe Flacco possibly for your fantasy playoffs this year. Other players, Nico Collins, another Texan calf strain. This is weird. It could be, depending on the severity, it could be, short term, could be long term. I would say he's pretty much definitely out this week. I don't believe he's going to be playing this week. I think he has a chance to return in 2 weeks. But to me, from what I'm seeing, I would call it like a 3 to 4 week thing. Let me look at their schedule really quick. But 3 to 4 week thing, and it also sort of depends on where the Texans sit in that playoff race, right? So, I mean, okay, so here's the thing. So he plays at Tennessee this week. Win, loss, I don't know. They kind of need that win. We'll see. I don't think Nico Collins plays this week. Week after that, they're home against the Browns, and I'm sitting Nico Collins whether he's active or out for that game. Don't care. Week after that, then, would be the Fantasy Football Championship, home against the Titans. Could be his first game back. And I don't know if I'm going to be starting him his first game back, but that's the way that's the timeline for me, though. What I mean by that is if you hold on to Nico Collins, I think the earliest you're playing him is the Fantasy Football Championship. And he's either going to be coming back, he's going to be coming off of back-to-back inactives, or he's going to be coming off of a poor performance, I think. So what's your confidence level going to be starting him for the Fantasy Championship? Probably not super high. And because of that, again, he is absolutely not a must-drop player. But I don't think he's a must-hold-on-to player. He's not a must-hold player. I think there's a scenario where you could drop Nico Collins just because he is eating up a spot on your bench that you need. So I don't think you need to hold on to him. Now, rolling the dice, but I don't think he plays this week. Out tonight, Christian Watson's out tonight with a hamstring injury. In my opinion, I think he's going to be out for 2 weeks from everything I have heard. And again, that would mean he comes back week 17. That's the fantasy playoff or fantasy championship for you, most likely. Do you feel good about starting him? Probably not. It makes sense for the Packers, though, because that means he would be coming back for that matchup against the Vikings. That is oh so important. So I'm projecting a week 17 return for Christian Watson. The other one's Aaron Jones. You guys know the Aaron Jones timeline because I assume you listen to me, right? During Thanksgiving week, Lombardi sweep solo show, I told you he's going to be out probably 4 weeks. Last Wednesday, I told you he's going to be out this week. Look at that. He's out tonight. I think he comes back next week. That would be a matchup against, let's look. Either way, I'm not feeling good about it. I can tell you that. He'd be coming back for a matchup against Carolina. Obviously not a bad matchup. So we'll see. We'll see. Aaron Jones has been fucking terrible this year. Not really to his fault, right? Like he's been dealing with injuries and stuff like that, but then he's also been dealing with the offense around him. He's been dealing with the play caller. And I'm personally not starting Aaron Jones the first week he is reactivated. That doesn't make sense to me. There's certainly a scenario where the Packers ease him along, especially in a matchup against Carolina that they should be able to win. If the Packers aren't pressured to pull out all the stops and, try to create a bunch of fireworks, they're not going to. So again, the next chance that you're probably starting Aaron Jones, or the next time that it makes sense to start Aaron Jones, would be week 17, your fantasy championship against the Vikings. The Vikings have been good against the run. I don't like Aaron Jones the rest of the year. I'm not playing him. I don't think I'm playing Aaron Jones the rest of the year. It sucks. It sucks. But, we'll see how he looks in week 16. Maybe he's utilized in the passing game a lot in week 17. I don't know. But confidence level for Aaron Jones rest of the season, not very high, folks. Not high. That comes from a Packers insider. 2 more I have on my list. If you guys have questions about any players, definitely fire them at me. I have Alexander Madison. He has an ankle sprain. They've been pretty quiet about this. Vikings have been quiet about both of those injury news things. But I don't expect Alexander Madison to play this week. That would mean Ty Chandler is the RB1. He's looked pretty good. He's been okay. So it's kind of insane that he wasn't even in the top 10 for most trending players on Sleeper. Maybe that's because he already has the high ownership. I'll give people the benefit of the doubt. Let me check. No. Okay, so he's owned in 29% of leagues, and people are like, I need to pick up that fucking rookie Rams tight end that I legitimately forgot the name of. I said I was going to forget his name by the time I ended that question, and I did. Pick up Ty Chandler. He's going to start this week. I'm pretty confident. And then Madison's probably week to week. What week makes the most sense for him to come back? Everybody, let's say it together. Week 17, championship week. Packers play the Vikings. So you're probably not playing Alexander Madison next week. Maybe he comes back the week after that. Week after that makes a lot more sense to me. And then finally, we got Josh Jacobs. Knee injury. He heard it earlier in the game, tried to play through it. I think he heard it worse, not great. I don't think it's a season-ending thing for him. It didn't seem like that. But he has a short turnaround. He plays on Thursday Night Football against the Chargers. Yes, Easton Stick versus Aiden O'Connell. We got no Justin Herbert. We got no Josh Jacobs. What an exciting time to be alive. I assume Josh Jacobs is out. Like, I can't imagine he is going to be the starter for this game. That means Zamir White is going to be the starter, second-year player. And the good thing about this, Zamir White got almost no touches his rookie year. Almost none. He hasn't really gotten any touches this year. Almost none. However, Josh Jacobs held out in training camp, held out early in that preseason process, and Zamir White was given all of the starter reps, all of the RB1 reps. He looked pretty good, but most importantly, he worked with all of these players. He worked a lot more. Jimmy Garoppolo is no longer here, I guess, but he's worked with all of these players and worked with the starting offense, so there's a familiarity there, and I think that could be huge for him in this opportunity, getting an elevated spot here, elevated opportunity, being a starter. I think there's a chance Zamir White turns in a pretty good week. Obviously, you got to be desperate to be picking him up and starting him on Thursday Night Football in a playoff matchup for yourself. But there's a lot of desperate people out there, and I think you could do worse than Zamir White. If you're playing on DFS, if you're betting, just keep Zamir White's name in your mind. I assume he's pretty cheap on DFS, and I think he could turn in a very, very solid performance against a Chargers defense that, quite frankly, isn't very good at stopping the run. So keep him in mind. I'll give y'all a couple seconds here, a couple minutes maybe. If you have any final questions, fire them at me. Otherwise, let's talk about Underdog Fantasy. Scan the QR code, go play on Underdog Fantasy, deposit with the promo code Flurry, that's FLURRY, and you get a free $100. It's a $100 deposit match. And let me tell you, legitimately, Underdog Fantasy is my favorite DFS platform. I think it's a lot of fun. And don't tell them this, but I think it's pretty easy to make money. They have two big game modes. Obviously, the draft game mode. You go into it with other people, real people, live drafts. The best day of your fantasy football season is draft day. It's the most fun. And now you can enter daily drafts on Underdog Fantasy. They're super addicting, super fun. Highest score, couple highest scores get paid. There's also playoff best ball drafts coming very soon if they're not already posted on Underdog. Those are a shit ton of fun. So you're drafting players for the playoffs. And obviously, the farther your players go, the more points you get. A lot of fun there. You can do private drafts, and there's other sports. You got NBA, PGA, NHL, all kinds of stuff for that. And then there's the pick'em. So then you put together a couple of selections, go higher or lower on various projections, including, points for other sports. You got yards, you got tackles. You can even do extra points. Fantasy points are included as well. So if you don't have that sports betting brain, you're not good with the props. There's fantasy points as well. Go higher or lower, string them together for a shit ton of multiplier. You can go up to 100x, turn $1 into 100, and you get already a $100 deposit match anyways by using the promo code Flurry. So definitely go over to Underdog, play over there. If you invite me to a private draft, by the way, if you draft, invite me in the comments or something like that, I'll join and play with you. Just know I'm not going to take it easy, so I may be taking your money if I do that. But if anyone wants to do any private drafts, go ahead. I will jump in with you. But yeah, that's all I got for today. I don't think we need to milk this out any longer. If you're watching this after the fact, definitely ask questions in the comments below over at Fantasy Football by Committee on Facebook. This is the start of the playoffs for a lot of leagues. So join us live Wednesday night as well to talk through my rankings and to talk about other fantasy news, answer your questions, really help you set the best possible lineup. Join for that. And that'll be the next time I see you. So see you.